Hi students, Assalamu alaikum. Today I want to have a brief discussion on the dietary reference intake and metabolic rate. These are two important topics of the card, food and nutrition, vitamins and minerals. At the end of this session, we will be clear up about the different dietary reference standards, the factors affecting them and their significance, and a brief outline of metabolic rate. Now I'm discussing about the dietary reference intake. The concept of DRI is very recently accepted over RDA. Since 1941, the RDA was followed as the recommendation for nutrition intake, but very recently the American and Canadian expert of nutrition they have proposed and followed a more detailed set of nutrition recommendation. It is the DRI. DRI is the estimation of the total amount of nutrients that are required for maintenance of normal growth and development and to prevent the specific deficiencies. Different types of deficiencies like protein energy malnutrition, iron deficiency, iodine deficiency, vitamin A deficiency, and so on. There are several factors that can affect the DRI. These are the age, sex, and different physiologic condition. We know that growing children, pregnant women, and lactating mother needs more nutrition requirement than the elderly and less active person. DRI includes total 4 dietary reference standards. These are estimated average requirement, recommended dietary allowance, adequate intake, and tolerable upper intake level. Unlike the RDA, DRI establishes the upper limits on the consumption of some nutrients and for lifelong good health, going beyond the deficiency disorders. Now it is the estimated average requirement or EAR. The EAR can meet the daily nutrition requirement level of near about 50% of the healthy individuals, and it is the real or actual requirement, and it makes the base for the setting of amounts for RDA. The recommended dietary allowance can cover up the nutrition requirement of nearly 100% of individuals, and it provides a safety margin regarding nutrient intake for all. That means intake of daily nutrients according to RDA can prevent the nutritional deficiency disorders as well as obesity and related disorders or toxicity that are observed for overconsumption of certain foods. There are several factors that must be considered while setting the RDA. The growing children needs more RDA than the elderly person, and the RDA of men is 20% higher than women, and during the period of pregnancy and lactation the RDA is more, and RDA must be increased after debilitating disease, after major surgery and massive injury. Notice the RDA of different macromolecules like carbohydrate, lipid, and protein. The requirement may vary according to different physiologic condition. In case of growing children, pregnant, and lactating women, the protein requirement is near about double. Now you must be wondering what might be the uses of RDA. It is for proper planning and overall assessing the daily dietary nutrient intake level that must include all the essential nutrients for proper growth and development and overall well-being. Now it is the adequate intake. It is the amount of nutrient intake by a group of apparently healthy individuals that seems to be adequate. Sometimes we can't measure the actual EAR or RDA due to lack of proper evidence. As for example, in young infants who are on exclusive breastfeeding, we can't measure their actual consumption level, but we can declare them as healthy by observing some signs of good health and by watching the milestones of development. The tolerable upper intake level is the last number of the dietary reference standard. It is the maximum average daily nutrient intake level. Beyond this, some adverse health effects may be observed. Actually, it serves as a safety margin to prevent some toxicity that are sometimes observed due to overconsumption of some nutrients like fat-soluble vitamins, and it is also helpful in food fortification. Food fortification means sometimes we add uh, some extra nutrient to food to enhance the nutritive value of some foods. It is the food fortification. We intake food usually using the knowledge of different dietary recommendations, different dietary reference standards, and after ingestion of these food particles, complex food particles, what will happen in the body? There are several digestive juices that are rich in enzymes. And these enzymes act upon these complex food particles to make it into its simpler form or the monomer units, like uh, glucose from glucose or other monosaccharides from carbohydrates, principally polysaccharides, fatty acid and glycerol from lipid digestion, and the amino acids from protein digestion. And all these three monomer units or end product of digestion then enter into the enterocyte and uh, then to the blood, and via the circulation it spreads all over the body. And by using different oxidative metabolic pathways, the form it forms a common metabolite. It is the acetyl-CoA, and this acetyl-CoA then directly enter into the TCA cycle or citric acid cycle to form ATP, and it has a direct link with the electron transport chain or respiratory chain, and the complexes of respiratory chain is sequentially arranged in the inner mitochondrial membrane. The inner mitochondrial membrane have several complexes of respiratory chain. These are complex 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And ultimately, it utilizes the molecular oxygen to form ATP. And this ATP is the energy currency of cell or cell's money. Cells utilize this uh, for doing everything. So the entire spectrum of biochemical reactions continuously occurring in the body is the metabolism. What will be the metabolic rate? It is the rate of metabolism. That means it is the rate of release of energy per unit time in the body. It's the metabolic rate. On an average, it is about 1.2 kilocalorie per minute at resting condition and at favorable atmosphere. And the metabolic rate may vary from person to person and in different physiologic condition. We know that male have a higher muscle mass and the energy consumption rate is more in male. Their RDA is about 20% more than female. So obviously their metabolic rate is higher than female. And the metabolic rate slows down as the age advances. The person who perform more physical activity like athletes, they have higher metabolic rate. During pregnancy and lactation, metabolic rate is higher due to more energy consumption. And in extreme atmospheric temperature like extreme heat and extreme cold, the metabolic rate is higher due to thermoregulation. The basal metabolic rate and the specific dynamic action of food are two spatial conditions we will discuss uh, about this in the next session in details. We utilize about 250 ml of oxygen per minute at resting condition normally. And there is a term, it is the energy equivalent of oxygen. What is it? It is the when we utilize 1 liter of oxygen via different oxidative process, it is the energy equivalent of oxygen. It is about 4.8 kilocalorie per liter, and the metabolic rate is 1.2 kilocalorie per minute. So this is all about the metabolic rate. Thank you. Stay safe and stay at home. Allah Hafiz.